across the Corn Belt. Click their icon at IllinoisFarmRadio.com.
Do you know what to do when a car is pulled over on the side of the road? First, reduce your speed. Second, change lanes if possible. Third, proceed with caution. These 3 simple steps can be the difference between life and death. The next time you're on the road, do the right thing. Slow down, move over, and drive like your life and their life depends on it. Sponsored by the Illinois Broadcasters Association. Aired in cooperation with this station. Thanks to the AAA Auto Club for their financial support in the airing of this message.
Warner Hospital providing ENT health and otolaryngology services to DeWitt County with Gibson Area Hospital and Dr. Jonathan Glickstein. Your ENT health is important, and Dr. Glickstein is an experienced otolaryngologist specializing in ear, nose, and throat conditions and head and neck surgery, dedicated to excellence in patient care for the best ENT services. Now seeing patients at the Warner Specialty Clinic in Clinton. To book your appointment in Clinton, call 217-784-2808.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show is streaming to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the phone this morning is Mr. Dan Matthews. He is the DeWitt County Board Chair. Mr. Matthews, good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing well. Good morning, Seth.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. You're on the ground this morning. It's awfully breezy out there. Are your feet staying to the concrete?
It was a little tough driving to Springfield this morning. Definitely had to pay more attention than normal. Keep the car on the road.
Yeah, bit breezy out there for sure, but we appreciate you making time for us in all seriousness and recapping the Thursday night DeWitt County Board meeting, Mr. Matthews. And let's start with what kind of took up most of the meeting, which was a presentation regarding the prospect of carbon capture in DeWitt County. What did you hear from the folks from Heartland Greenway?
Well, Terry Ferguson and I had met with a gentleman from Heartland a couple of weeks ago, just to kind of get an introduction. I mean, some people are familiar with the fact that they've been in DeWitt County and kind of doing some testing of the soil and things like that. So I wanted to find out more. And then once Terry and I met with them, we thought it was just a good idea to have them come in to speak with the whole board, just to give them a better idea of what the project really was, why Central Illinois, and just more of an informational meeting. Not that I think they even said there's nothing really imminent on the calendar right now. They're still trying to get permitting, and we would be a phase 2 for them. So, that's a couple of years down the road before they would even have their permits for DeWitt County.
Yeah. Well, and a couple of talking points of note out of that. But first, if you don't mind, Mr. Matthews, what are your thoughts on the prospect of carbon capture in DeWitt County, or is it too early on in this process to even have an opinion from your perspective?
Well, I think anytime you're doing something with the unknown long-term ramifications of pumping anything into the Earth's surface and ground is a little bit scary. There's not a whole lot of history with it. We did hear that ADM's been doing it for 5 or 6 years, but what does that mean 20, 30, 50 years down the road? It's something that if I were just to be asked, do you want that in DeWitt County? My first impression would be no. I think there's just too many unknowns today to sign up for something like that and, be one of the first, people to do it besides maybe an ADM or, and we don't know the scope of their project as well.
So with that said, one of the things out of this that was, I thought, of interest was the fact that, there's really not a lot of local regulation in place as it relates to carbon capture. This sounds a lot like wind and solar where, kind of all of a sudden this is a trendy, environmental movement. And so, perhaps DeWitt County hasn't had all the chance to really evaluate its ordinances and things of that nature. Now, I briefly had a short exchange with Mr. Markwell about this before he returned to his seat at the board table there on Thursday night. And I hope from his perspective, I'm not speaking out of school about this, but it sounds like there is this would have to be done in an industrial zone, if I'm not mistaken. So I guess, Mr. Matthews, what is the what are the county ordinances around this, and just kind of the prospect of how the county goes forward with what could potentially be development on this and its role in accepting or rejecting a project of this magnitude in DeWitt County?
Well, Seth, my understanding is that our ordinance currently says no to this type of project. We specifically called it out recently and said this is something that's not allowed. So because of that, and the fact that it would have to be on industrial zoned land, if this is something that continues down the road, there would have to be a special use permit to first rezone property, potentially change ordinances, or as we've seen recently in Springfield, they're mandating these type of green projects and limiting our local authority over these type of projects. So those are the things I think that all would come out as we, again, if someone were to bring a special use permit to us eventually for this type of project.
Now, what would be the process for the county? I mean, would this again be similar to wind and solar, where we'd have to take up ordinances regarding this and maybe reevaluate those? What happens next as it relates to DeWitt County's process on this?
That it would have to go through the committees as the other things, other types of projects similar to this have done. Again, right now our ordinance simply does not allow for it, where I believe the wind and solar, we do have more lengthy ordinance rules around those because they were, I guess, allowable projects, where right now we're saying this is trying to get ahead of the game, is what we tried to do on this one, to say, no, we don't want this in DeWitt County, but it sounds like the permitting is definitely different, and it's between them and the landowner, and the county may not have as much say in something like this. But we've got a lot more to learn about that process still.
Yeah. Well, and for those out there that wonder, Mr. Matthews, the county board seems to, at this juncture, be against wind. The county board at this juncture seems to be, and particularly the ZBA and RPC, seem to be against solar. And now, based on your comments and a few from the board on Thursday night, the county seems to be apprehensive even against carbon capture. So for those out there that may think, well, the county's just no on everything, any development, the county is just no on, your response to that notion?
I don't believe that's to be true. It may sound like that based on what you've described. I think solar has a place in DeWitt County, and I think we will entertain some solar opportunities moving forward. I don't believe that it's a 12-0 vote against solar. I think I've talked to other county members, and there's definitely a place for solar in DeWitt County. And if you look at the three options, I think solar is the and if we would get a choice, as I said earlier, the state is mandating that we allow for more solar, more wind. And if we get to choose, I think solar's the choice that would best fit DeWitt County. So we're still waiting for the wind to start producing here. We're not getting any answers of why that's not happening. It just keeps going on and on, as everybody's asked, why aren't these things turned on? So I don't know what's going on with that, other than they haven't met their obligations to us and maybe to other entities to get those moving. So I think we just have to do what's right by the county and make sure we know what we're getting and what does it mean long term for the residents, and what do we want DeWitt County to be. I don't think we want to fill the skies with wind turbines and pump something into the land that we don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Well, and to that end, you mentioned at the end of the presentation and before regular business moved along on Thursday night that, and you've touched on it just a bit here this morning, you've seen the state come in and supersede itself with regulation as it relates to wind, and perhaps even solar might be next. And as carbon capture interest in Illinois grows, and particularly as this group on Thursday mentioned, central and southern Illinois. We'll take a quick time out here, Mr. Matthews. Let this update.
Warning continues until 9 a.m. this morning for Champaign County. The storm has the potential for both large hail and strong straight line winds. Pea-sized hail and winds up to 60 miles an hour are likely as it pushes northeast at 50 miles an hour. Once again, a severe thunderstorm warning continues continues until 9 a.m. this morning for Champaign County. Remember, this storm has the potential for pea-sized hail, and winds up to 60 miles an hour are likely. Stay tuned for additional updates. I'm meteorologist Derek Height.
DeWitt County Board Chair Dan Matthews on the phone with us. Mr. Matthews, thanks for letting us get that in there real fast. But you mentioned earlier the idea of the state coming in over the top with wind ordinances, perhaps even solar and carbon capture would be next. Just evaluate more on that. What that would mean for DeWitt County from your perspective. How about that, real fast?
I guess it's the unknown. We put a lot of work into our ordinances. The people that have put hours and hours into, protecting DeWitt County, protecting our residents, by putting in ordinances that make sense, that do allow for projects such as wind, but restrict them, and offer protections for the residents. And now we see that someone else just arbitrarily decides, no, all the work you've done is out the window, and you're going to do them this way. Is really a scary thought to me that, what's next. So as you mentioned, I think we want to continue to try to get ahead of the game, to think about what may be coming down the road, and try to write ordinances that make sense and are fair. But again, we're definitely not against the growth. We need to find ways for DeWitt County to grow, but we want those to be the right choices too.
Sure. Well, Mr. Matthews, anything else on that as it relates to carbon capture and the discussion that was had? Anything from your board that you thought was worthy questions, good questions that they brought up? Wrap this up for us.
I think the board did ask good questions about, again, protections ordinances, and again, the protection of our water source is the utmost importance, and we'll just continue to learn about these types of projects as they move forward, and we'd start digging into them a little bit more now.
Well, Mr. Matthews, before we take a time out this morning, let's just get to a couple of general things from Thursday night. An appointment to the DeWitt Bi-County Health Department Board. Talk about Dr. Annalee Rorscheib being appointed. Tell us about this.
That's an appointment that comes from their organization itself, and of course, she's the great choice for that. A lot of experience, and so that's kind of just a normal appointment that comes along for that organization.
Sure. So she will be on the board until 2025. It sounds like Dr.
Yes.
Tricia Serba resigned from that position. And Mr. Matthews, we have a new animal control administrator in DeWitt County. Great news there. Tell us about this.
Yeah, we're excited to get Holly on board. She'll be starting here in the next week with us, and I think our board has been working hard to do some updates at the out there, and we will just see a better overall run organization out there. People are going to see just some things improved, and we've got some other things in mind that we're going to continue to make improvements out there. So I look forward to getting Holly on board and letting her get things moving forward.
If you don't mind, Mr. Matthews, speak to the compensation on this, and just the idea of more compensation, hoping to find a better quality of candidate there. How about that aspect of this hire?
Yeah, we did. We looked at that. We looked at surrounding areas of what people in similar positions are getting paid, and as we dug into it, I wasn't aware of all they really do. It's not just a 40-hour job. It's you've got to go out on calls. You're really 24/7. You're on calls. So that person has a lot of responsibility. They deal with animals that aren't always the easiest to deal with. They handle a lot of administration functions and deal with rabies tags and registrations, and there's a lot that goes into that job. And so we feel that that person's pay should reflect what they do. And so, yes, we did offer a little more compensation. I think we got some good candidates, and I think we have a really good hire.
So with that will be Holly Gelbach. She will begin that role, it sounds like, and look forward to what transpires at the animal control facility. Mr. Matthews, let's take a time out here. Come back with some more. DeWitt County Board Chair Dan Matthews joins us on the phone this morning. More to come with him on the WHOW Morning Show.
I'm weatherology meteorologist Derek Height with a significant weather update. A new tornado warning has been issued until 9:15 a.m. this morning for Champaign County. A tornado has been confirmed on the ground with this storm. Stay tuned for additional updates. I'm meteorologist Derek Height.
Let's check the opening numbers of the Chicago Board of Trade on this Monday. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network. Corn and beans starting the day steady, and Chicago wheat starting the day lower. March corn 650 unchanged. May corn starting the day 648 and a quarter, down a penny. July corn down a penny, 637 and 3/4. March beans 1527 and a half, down a penny and a half. May beans down half a penny, 1518 and 3/4. July beans starting the day 1507, down 1.5. March Chicago wheat 703 and a quarter, that's down a nickel. May wheat 716 and a half, down 5 1/4. July wheat on this Monday 724, down 5 1/4. May bean meal 479.30, down 70 cents, and May bean oil 61.52, up 30 cents. Opening numbers for this Monday. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network.
At Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton and Baum Motor Company in Farmer City, our job is to help you and solve your transportation needs. This is Scott Baum. Both in Clinton or Farmer City, we'll listen and find options for a different vehicle, or we'll give you repair options to keep that car, truck, or SUV safe and trouble-free so you can continue with your busy schedule. If it has to do with transportation, we're here to help. Visit our full-service team today in Clinton or Farmer City. Baum Chevrolet Buick, right from the start.
Here's owner Dave Jackson from your Clinton Save a Lot on how inflation is affecting all of us.
I peg the inflation rate on groceries at 20, not 8.
20%.
20 at least. And that is just a massive, that's, tenfold what it was back. You have to go back to the 70s. So this is the worst inflation in my lifetime. They say since 1980. I'm going to go back farther than that.
Despite that, Dave still provides you selection and savings at your Clinton Save a Lot. Find out more by clicking their icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Hope to see you soon.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show is streaming to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Beacon Insurance agent in Clinton. DeWitt County Board Chair Dan Matthews, my guest on the phone here for this morning. And Mr. Matthews, at the Thursday night DeWitt County Board meeting, there was a bit on there about the improvements coming to the DeWitt County building. And this is part of what was an evaluation given by Chastain and Associates, the engineering firm, for what they thought the county building was in need of the most. Let's start with what was approved on Thursday night, and then we'll get into the evaluation and talk about what all they found and maybe some of the things that will be happening in the year 2023 at the county building.
All right, Seth. So what we did was about a year ago, we had Chastain come and do a walkthrough of the building, inspecting, from the ground up in the building to see what may need repaired now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, to really give us a roadmap of what we're going to need to do and how we need to plan for those expenses. So we first went through that. As part of that, came out that the roof on the sheriff's department is definitely in need of repair, and that's something that needs to be done this year. So that'll be our main focus this year. So on Thursday night, we approved Chastain to take over that process as far as writing the bid specs, putting the bids out there. Then they'll also follow through with the project inspections. They also, as part of that deal, take care of all the wages, making sure those are paid out correctly and reported the way they should. So they'll handle that whole project for us. So we'll get that started right away so that we can get a bid done and get that roof repaired, really replaced this year.
Now, with that evaluation, Mr. Matthews, talk to us a little bit about some of the other things that it found, and how the county is using discernment in maybe prioritizing what is to come next. Maybe there are some things that are of immediate need, maybe some long-term things where it's not like we have to do it now, but we're going to get to it eventually. What was that process like? What else did that report come up with?
The first thing is the roof. The roof protects everything else right underneath. But then we have things such as tuck pointing needs and window seals and just every other really aspect of the building. No other major projects. So things that most of everything that's on that list are 3 years out, 5 years out, just over time things that are going to need updating or repaired. So it's really the structural parts of the building. So but we need to get the roof done to protect those other elements, from any kind of water damage that could occur, so that we don't have to rush into doing some of those other repairs. So out of that, then there's some other minor things on there, but we will, working with the property committee, is put together a plan that we can bring back to the full board and say, here's what we're doing this year. Obviously, within the next 3 years, these things need to be done. And then we look out 5 years to see and try to anticipate expenses that may come down the road. So they kind of put those at the highest priority to, hey, here's things you just need to consider down the road.
So when it comes to a timeline of some of those things, Mr. Matthews, are we looking at trying to get everything accomplished this year? Is this going to be a 2-3 year process? How do you foresee some of these things being addressed?
They will definitely take a few years to get done. Not just because of the cost, but they're just things that we just need to be thinking of. They're not broken now. They're not leaking now. They're not causing any other issues. So it's just more of a planning phase so that we can plan the funds over time and figure out how we're going to save for those or put money away or things like that, so that we'll just be prepared when it's time to take care of just routine maintenance that needs to be done every year.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to have more of a plan for that. So I think just everyone's aware of expenses that come up versus, something comes up and we're like, oh, we budgeted for that. We knew about it. Well,
Mm-hmm.
we need to have that in a plan just so people are aware. Of the expense that may arise.
And speaking of that plan for funding and those sorts of things, I know Thursday it was brought up, is this ARPA dollars? Did we budget for this? What is the plan for funding for these projects, Mr. Matthews?
The roof itself was budgeted for. We still do have ARPA funds that we could consider based on what the bids come in. So, we anticipated this project for the roof to be somewhere around $750,000 to $800,000. So we've budgeted that. But as you know, today, everything is going up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it won't surprise me if we don't see bids come in higher than that. So if those do, we do have ARPA funds that we would use for that, close that gap on the roof repair.
Mm-hmm. Anything else on that, Mr. Matthews, you want to put out there we haven't touched on yet?
No, I think Mr. Ferguson is going to, with this committee, start putting together that long-term plan. And so as we, maybe a few months down the road here, we'll be able to share some more things. Just what does that plan look like for us?
Yeah. I noticed Terry wasn't there Thursday. Everything okay with him?
He is doing well. He had a back surgery, but I talked to him a couple times this weekend, and he's healing up quickly, and everything went well. So that was good news.
Good. I know his back's been bothering him for a while, so glad that he's got that taken care of, and hopefully he's on the mend. Mr. Matthews, I've got about a minute left with you this morning. We'll wrap it up with talk to me about what Carrie Harris brought forward from the county board, or for the county board, as it relates to some technology and also improving pay for election judges. Tell me about this.
Yeah, I think probably the most important thing is it's Carrie's first full election that she's taking care of, and we've talked about it for a while, increasing the pay for the election judges. They are there for 12 hours plus. They can't leave those days. I wasn't aware that they had to be there the entire time. So we looked around again, and Carrie's done her work, and we needed to pay those people a little bit more for the job that they do. It's not an easy job when you have to sit there, for 12 hours a day. And so I think that the pay is much more fair than it was previously. So we were happy to do that and help her out.
Sure. I don't mean to do this to you, Mr. Matthews. I need to cut you off and let you go. I didn't realize those election judges were there all day. That was an interesting talking point for sure. That is Dan Matthews, DeWitt County Board Chair, our guest. Network news on the way. A quick weather alert before that.
The Big 1520 WHOW Clinton, 92.3 FM, W222 BG Clinton, 106.5 FM, W293 DJ Normal Bloomington.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. U.S.-China tensions escalate in the skies over the South China Sea. An American Navy aircraft warned by the crew of a Chinese fighter jet armed with air-to-air missiles at, quote, "no approaching anymore or you will pay full responsibility." The encounter came in international airspace. The U.S. plane shadowed closely by the Chinese fighter for about 15 minutes. The spiral of Israeli-Palestinian violence continues to intensify in the West Bank and Gaza.
In the course of the day, there was this attack in Hawara, close to Nablus, where two Israeli brothers from a nearby settlement were shot at close range. The Israeli military says it's hunting for a Palestinian gunman, but there has also been continuing violence there over the past few hours as Jewish settlers set fire to Palestinian properties, some with families inside who had to be evacuated.
The BBC's Yolanda Nell. They are using the R word. A group of leading economists asked about the timing of a recession.
The 48 economists were surveyed by the National Association of Business Economics, and 58% of them believe there will be a recession sometime this year. That's the same percentage as in December, but only a quarter think a recession will begin by the end of March. In December, 1/2 thought a recession would begin by the end of March. A third of economists surveyed now expect a recession to begin in the second quarter. The delay in economists' expectations of when a downturn might begin follows a series of government reports that pointed to a still robust economy, even after the Federal Reserve raised interest rates 8 times in an effort to curb high inflation. Donna Warder, Washington.
Wall Street is higher this morning. Right now, the Dow up 287 points, the Nasdaq ahead 131. More on these stories at townhall.com.
You have an IRA or 401k, please listen closely. My name is Jason Hansen. I'm a former CIA officer and New York Times bestselling author. Throughout my career, let's just say I've been in some hairy situations. And I believe right now the biggest threat facing Americans is they need to protect their wealth, which is exactly what I'm doing for my wife and 6 kids. And I believe the ultimate safe haven is physical gold and silver. You can protect your hard-earned retirement assets with a tax-free loophole that allows you to convert your retirement